Hello and welcome. If you're here, there's a good chance you've noticed something about your child that doesn't quite feel right. Maybe they're more irritable, maybe they're sleeping all the time, maybe they're not interested in the things that they used to love. Maybe school has become a battle for you guys, or maybe you're simply thinking, I don't know what's going on with my child. So, today we're going to talk about depression in children and adolescents. And I want to start by saying something important, and that is this presentation is not about teaching you how to diagnose your child. It's about teaching you how to notice patterns, understand what they mean, respond in a supportive way, and know when it's time to get professional help. So, we're going to keep this practical. No complicated medical jargon or language. And we're going to talk about what depression can actually look like in a real child, what parents can do at home, how to talk to your kid, what treatment can look like, and where families who are local to the Orange County, Florida area can turn for help because there are a lot of good resources that are available. Before we go any further, do want to make an important distinction as well. You know your child better than anyone, but recognizing symptoms doesn't mean you need to diagnose them. What does that mean? Depression can overlap with other things. Depression can overlap with anxiety, trauma, ADHD, grief, autism, maybe medical conditions, sleep issues, and a whole bunch of other things. And that's why evaluation matters because just because they check off a few check boxes of depression doesn't mean they actually struggle with the diagnosis of depression. Our job as parents is not to put a label on our child. Our job is to notice when something has changed and say, something is going on and I want to understand it. And if your child is talking about suicide, self harm, or is in immediate danger, don't wait for the next therapy session. Go get professional help immediately. So, by the end of the program, I want you to leave with three things. First, I want you to be able to recognize concerning changes in your child's moods and behaviors. Second, I want you to have actual words you can use when you're talking to your child. And third, I want you to know what to do next because knowing that your child is struggling isn't enough. As parents, we need an actual roadmap. So here's one of the hardest questions we ask ourselves as parents. Is this just a phase? And honestly, sometimes it is. Children have bad days just like we do. Kids get moody just like we do. Middle school specifically can be awkward and children can have meltdowns and teenagers want their privacy. The problem isn't one difficult day. What we're looking for is patterns over time. So it is recommended just to pay attention when emotional or behavioral changes last for weeks or longer. If they cause significant distress, like interfering with home, school, friendships, or other areas of their daily life. So rather than asking, is my child sad? Ask, has their functioning changed? And that is a much more useful question. When you're trying to figure out whether something deserves attention, remember these four words: persistence, change, impact, and safety. You don't have to wait until your child is falling apart. If you see a significant change that continues and begins affecting everyday life, that's enough of a reason to reach out to them. And if safety becomes an issue, we never wait, ever. One of the biggest misconceptions about depression is that it simply means, oh, I'm sad. But Depression affects the entire child. It can affect how they think, how they sleep, how much energy they have, how they interact with people, how they perform at school, and whether they still enjoy things they used to love. And here's something special for the parents. Children and adolescents, they might appear more irritable than sad when they have depression. So the child who's constantly snapping, arguing, or saying, "Leave me alone," that child might be struggling emotionally rather than simply being disrespectful. The thing is, children don't always have the vocabulary to say, "I'm experiencing depressive symptoms." So instead, they tend to communicate through statements like this. And the thing is, sometimes the most concerning statement isn't even dramatic. It might simply be, "I don't care anymore," or "What's the point?" And that's why listening to the meaning underneath the words matter. And here, these are all the things that depression can feel like. It is pretty basic information. So we're going to dig a little deeper into this as time goes on, breaking it down by age and what we can do about it. So let's talk about something called a depression snowball. So imagine your child is having a hard time and they still feel badly about themselves, or they start feeling badly about themselves. So they stop participating. They stop seeing friends. They stop playing. They spend more time in bed, spend more time in their room. Now they're getting fewer positive experiences. And that can lead to more negative thoughts. And then the cycle just continues. So, one of the goals of treatment is to interrupt that cycle. And parents can help interrupt it too. It's not just the therapist that can help. And parents can do this by not forcing a child to be happy, but helping them reconnect with people, activities, routines, and support on their own time. So, some things that elementary kids may not say, right? With elementary age children, depression can especially be difficult to recognize. A younger child might not say, "I'm feeling hopeless." Instead, you might see more tantrums. You might see more crying, more complaints about their stomach or their head. Maybe they suddenly don't want to go to school. Maybe they stopped playing with their friends or losing interest in activities that they loved altogether. Depression can be specifically defined as frequent irritability, physical complaints, the sleep changes, social difficulties, and academic decline, among signs that may even warrant evaluation in younger kids. And this is one of the most important shifts I want parents to make. Instead of immediately saying, "Oh, how do I stop this tantrum? How do I stop this behavior?" Try asking, "What is this tantrum? What is this behavior telling me?" A child who won't get out of bed, they might need boundaries, but they might also be exhausted. A child who is constantly angry, they might need consequences, but they might also be overwhelmed. The behavior still matters, but understanding what's underneath changes how we respond to it. So it's not them getting away with what they are doing, it's us responding differently to what they're doing in order to get the best result for them. Basically, all I'm saying is this doesn't mean we excuse the behavior. It simply means we investigate before we assume. Now, our teenagers, they can absolutely need boundaries and mental health support at the same time. You can say, "I understand you want privacy, and I'm also noticing you stop seeing your friends, and your grades are dropping. I'm concerned about you." That's different from, "You're always in your room. You're so lazy. So the first approach creates a conversation, and then the other one shuts it down for the child. So parents often want to know what caused this. And sometimes we can identify a major trigger. Maybe there was a death, divorce, bullying, a move, a traumatic experience, a big school change. But depression doesn't always have one obvious cause. A child's vulnerability can be influenced by biology, especially during puberty, their environment, stress, relationships, and life experiences. And I want to make one thing very clear: having depression does not automatically mean someone did something wrong as a parent. Which brings us to our next thing: parent guilt. That can become a huge barrier to getting help. As parents, sometimes we start thinking, was I too strict? Did I do too much? Did I miss something? Did I cause this? And sometimes parents spend so much time trying to figure out who's to blame that they don't have energy left to figure out what their child needs. So let's replace whose fault is this with what does my child need from me now? And that's where we can actually make a difference. And depression is treatable. Treatment depends on the child's age, their symptoms, the severity, circumstances, medical history, and the individual's actual needs. Psychotherapy is usually what's used. Family involvement in that can be super helpful. School involvement in that can be super helpful. So, the professional that you choose to work with your child is very important. See what things they have to offer to make sure that there are no gaps in your child's care. Medications can be considered in some cases, but definitely get a professional opinion on that, whether that be a psychiatrist or your PCP. The goal isn't to find one magic treatment because there isn't one magic treatment. The goal is to find the right level of combination of support for that particular child. Some parents hear therapy and they imagine that their kid is sitting in a chair talking about their feelings for an hour. And sometimes they could be doing that, but child therapy is more than just talking. Depending on the child's age and needs, therapy might involve play, it could involve activities, expressive things, so like art, music, learning coping skills through those things, behavior changes, problem solving, emotional education, helping them understand why they feel what they feel and to put words to it. Um, Therapy is basically giving them new skills. For depression specifically, evidence based psychotherapy approaches like CBT can help children and adolescents identify patterns of thinking and behavior that contribute to the depression and help them develop healthier strategies. And parents, here's some good news: you don't have to become your child's therapist. That's not your job. Your job is to create an environment where treatment has room to do its thing. So if a therapist teaches your child a coping skill, encourage your child to practice it at home. If they're struggling, help them communicate. If they're withdrawing, maybe, encourage them to continue to connect. And then communicate to your child's therapist what's going on, what you feel is and isn't working, so that that therapist can then tweak the treatment as needed to make sure that your child is meeting the goals. When you don't know what to do, remember four words: connect, listen, support, and act. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to take the next helpful step. Healing is one step at a time. So most parents will say things like, cheer up, because we want our kids to feel better. And it's not intended to hurt them. or make them feel like they don't have a voice or that we don't care about their feelings. That's never our intention usually. But when a child is depressed, these kind of statements, cheer up, can make them feel misunderstood. We're not trying to say that every little feeling is accurate. What we're saying is, hey, your feelings are real and we can work on what comes next. And you can validate the emotion without agreeing with every thought your child has. Validation is huge. Parents sometimes think that validating their child's feelings means giving them whatever they want, and it doesn't. Validation means I understand you're experiencing something difficult. It doesn't mean everything you do because of that feeling is okay. We're not giving them an out for bad behavior, quote unquote. We are giving them compassion and teaching them a different way to go about it. Healthy parenting can hold both compassion and boundaries. You don't have to choose between either of those. So start the observation. Start with an observation instead of an accusation. That's how we start the conversation. Instead of what's wrong with you, try I've noticed you've been spending a lot more time alone lately. Then I'm not mad. I'm actually kind of worried about you because I love you. That small difference can completely change the tone of the conversation. So here's something practical, a 5-step conversation that you can have. First, tell them what you've noticed. Second, communicate care. Third, ask an open ended question, which is just a question that they can't answer yes or no to. They actually have to explain. And fourth, listen. And last, follow up. The last step is the one that definitely matters. Following up, it gives them reassurance that you're still there. One conversation doesn't magically fix depression. Your child needs to know that they can talk about the hard things more than one time. This is one of the most important slides in the entire presentation. So if you're worried that your child might be thinking about suicide, it is appropriate to ask directly. You can say, "Hey, have you been thinking about hurting yourself?" Or have you been thinking about dying or not wanting to be alive? You're not putting ideas into their head by asking them that. And if they say yes, don't panic. Don't punish them for telling you that, definitely. You can thank them for telling you and stay with them. And seek immediate professional support. For crisis support in the United States, you can always call or text 988 if the situation is life threatening. Call 911 or go to the nearest emergency room department because it's always better to be safe than sorry. These are not signs to ignore. Talking about wanting to die, hopelessness, feeling trapped, feeling like you're a burden, withdrawing, giving away possessions, saying goodbye, making a plan, and dangerous behavior is potential suicide warnings. You don't need to decide whether your kid is serious enough. If you're concerned about their safety, get help, period. If you believe your child might act on suicidal thoughts, don't leave them alone. Again, get immediate help, but also secure access to potentially dangerous medications, weapons, or anything with lethal means. Youth suicide safety guidance specifically recommends means restriction, and they emphasize creating a safety plan rather than relying on a simple promise I won't do it. And if you don't know how to create a safety plan, you can always talk to your child's therapist or their professional, whether it's a PCP or a psychiatrist, to help you build that safety plan. And just know you don't have to handle a mental health crisis by yourself. Now, let's talk about something parents often skip: ourselves. You. Watching your child struggle can be so exhausting, and you might feel some guilt. You might wonder, am I doing enough? You might be constantly monitoring their mood. You might feel like you're failing. You might start feeling anxiety or depression as well. And you might be so exhausted from trying to hold it all together. Your child's mental health needs do not mean your own mental health needs disappear. So here's a strategy I want you to remember. Before trying to regulate your child, check your own nervous system. You take a breath. You lower your voice. You slow down. You ask yourself, does my child need correction right now or connection? Sometimes the answer is correction, and sometimes the answer is connection, and sometimes the answer is both. But when we're handling such a important and safety risk topic, we want to make sure that we as parents are going in level headed as well, and we are going in emotionally stable. If you're in Orange County, Florida, you don't have to spend hours trying to figure out where to start. Orange County has different pathways into mental health support. One is Orange Connects, which is a free online navigation platform that asks you about your needs and then it matches you with providers based on your concerns, your insurance, language preference, and any other type of preferential settings that you might have. You can also call 211, which is just a local resource navigation. They can kind of help you figure out what's around you in your area that can provide you with assistance. And if your child attends Orange County Public Schools, the staff itself can be a starting point for mental health. Many schools actually provide a couple of counseling sessions, and there are contracted agencies that work with the school that can see your child in school or see your child at home and provide those therapy services that are necessary. Orange Connects, they are particularly useful for parents who say, I know my child needs help, but I don't know who to call. So you're going to answer a series of questions and then you'll receive a list of agencies. And that platform also allows you to consider things like I mentioned earlier, insurance and language and things like that. But that's definitely a good resource to bookmark. And parents sometimes think mental health treatment has to begin in a therapist office. Definitely doesn't. So, as a reminder, if your child attends OCPS, please reach out to them. I believe that their number is here it is right here 407-317-3694. And that's the Parent Mental Health Helpline at OCPS. And they can be reached during school hours in order to help you find a school based mental health service. Or you can always reach out to your school guidance counselor or leadership administration. So if you could just take a moment and save these numbers, pause the video if you have to, because these numbers will definitely come in handy. And you rather be with them than without them. Now we're going to end on one of my favorite parts: building a relationship with your child. It doesn't have to be complicated, and you don't need a family vacation every weekend or throw money at them. You don't need to have these Pinterest worthy activities. And you don't need hours of uninterrupted time. You need small amounts of consistent connection. Many professionals say that 30 minutes a week, one on one time with your child, doing something that they want to do, is enough to actually start to build the connection with your child. So try giving your child maybe 10 minutes a day. That's it. 10 minutes where you aren't checking your phone, you're not correcting, you're not asking them about missing homework, we're not giving lectures. It's what your child chooses to do. Maybe it's drawing, a video game, soccer, sitting outside, listening to music. The activity isn't the point. The relationship is the point. And I personally like to tell parents to try to do 10 minutes a day, especially in the beginning, because if you don't have a connection with your child, it's you might need some help building that rapport with them or establishing that level of comfort with them. And 10 minutes a day seems can seem for some parents much more doable than one longer session for the week. Sometimes parents try to connect with children by bringing them into the parent's world. We're going to do the opposite. You're going to enter theirs. If the child wants to show you a game, let them teach you. If they want to show you a video, watch it with them. If they want to talk about something you don't understand, then ask questions. You don't have to love everything they love. You just need to show them, I'm interested in knowing who you are. And here are 3 questions that you can try tonight. And these are examples of open ended questions as well, if you haven't heard or need an example of an open ended question. What was the best part of your day? What was the hardest part of your day? And is there anything you wish I understood better? That third question is especially powerful because it tells your child without telling them, I'm willing to see the world through your perspective. Think about your relationship with your child like a bank account. Every positive interaction is a deposit. Whatever they like, a hug, a laugh, listening, playing, saying, I'm proud of you, saying, I'm glad you're my kid. Those deposits matter because when difficult conversations happen, and they will, your child has a history of knowing, you know what, my parent is on my side. And that can be their anchor through something very difficult for them. So take a moment here. Think about your child beyond the problem. And write down 3 strengths your child has. Then identify one change you've noticed. And finally, identify one thing you want to understand better about them. And this is important because when we're worried about our children, it's easy to start seeing them only through a lens of the problem. Your child is not their depression. Your child is a whole person, and there's much more to them. So I don't want you leaving this presentation thinking you need to completely change your parenting. No. Pick 1 or 2 things that seem like it'll work for you. Maybe it's 10 minutes of connection. Maybe it's changing the way you respond when your child says they're overwhelmed. Maybe it's just calling the pediatrician. Maybe it's contacting the school, or maybe it's you just taking a day to take care of your own mental health. Small changes, repeated consistently, matters. That is how we build new healthy habits. So if you remember nothing else from this presentation, remember this. Your child does not need a perfect parent. They need someone who notices, a parent who listens, a parent who connects, a parent who helps when something is bigger than the family or bigger than what the family can handle alone, and a parent who keeps showing up. You don't have to fix everything today. You just need to take the next helpful step. Thank you for taking the time to do this because parenting is hard enough without feeling like you have to be an expert on everything your child experiences. And in case no one told you, you don't have to be. You don't need to know exactly what depression looks like in every single situation. You don't need to have the perfect words. You don't need to fix everything. You just need to be willing to notice, to listen, to act, to get help, and to keep showing up. Sometimes the most powerful thing a child can hear is simply, I see you, I'm listening, and we're going to figure this out together.